and thank you for tuning in to the Automation and Self-Service podcast. I'm your host, Sandra Carpenter. I'm also the editor of Vending Times and Kiosk Marketplace, and I'm joined today by Lee Mokri, founder and VP of Sales of Byte Technology. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I kind of want to start it at the beginning. So like taking it way back, what sparked the idea for Byte in the first place? Like, was there a specific problem that you all were trying to tackle?
Well, it came down to my personal life. I had a corporate job. I was working at Visa, and we had this beautiful cafe on site that was managed, I think at that time, by Bon Appetit. And I thought to myself, and I would eat there every day, and I thought to myself, every office should have, or every employee should have access to high quality, fresh food like I've got here on campus. And I would take the shuttle home after work every day and kind of iterate on this idea of how to develop this technology. When I left Visa, and this again, it was about 10 years ago. We had this idea, but no clear starting point. So what we wanted to do is kind of bite this off in pieces. So we started a meal delivery company. This is when Munchery and Sprig and Spoon Rocket were raising tens of millions of dollars. And we were thinking, hey, we can do this too. So we developed this meal delivery business in just north of San Francisco, and that took off. And the idea was 2 meal options a day. So very, very simple to understand as a customer. We did a survey monkey on Nextdoor of our neighbors. I think we got about 1,000 responses.
Wow. Okay.
And that really kind of directed how we developed that meal delivery business. And from there, so we were doing 2 meal options a day and delivering to homes throughout San Francisco and Marin, just north of San Francisco again. And that took off, and we started doing these corporate accounts as well. So we would deliver 10 meals to an office, and then the employees would pick them up there, and they'd get a small discount because it's one delivery. And we thought, hey, what if we could sell these meals in an office? Of course, nobody wants a cashier in their office, and
Right.
most companies don't have the real estate or the budget to set up something like they had at Visa. So that's when we developed this technology. And instead of delivering 1 or 2 meals to a home in the hills in Marin, we were delivering 50 meals to a workplace, and they were being purchased throughout the day. So we expanded from just those 2 meal options into all the day parts. So we had breakfast options, lunch options, dinner options, and we developed the technology and put it into a couple of locations. We started with 2K games. We put one kiosk in there, one Byte Technology. At that point, it was called Byte Foods. Okay. And it just took off. It started doing $200 a day. And we're very lucky that first location was such a success, because had it been a really slow location, we would have maybe second guessed what we had developed. But we added a second kiosk to that same location, and it was also doing $200 a day. And now we were, instead of delivering 2 meals to make $20, because they're $10 per meal, no tax, no tipping, no delivery fee, instead of making $20 with one delivery, now we're doing one delivery and we're making $400. So the economics just really made sense to us, to the point where we abandoned the meal delivery company to focus solely on Byte Foods, is what we were calling it at that point. And that meant developing the technology, the hardware, the software, identifying accounts, and sourcing food and stocking kiosks. So we grew that. We did this proof of concept with our technology in about 500 locations in San Francisco.
Okay.
And from there, it kind of just took off.
Well, that's incredible. Can you tell me, for folks who might not be familiar, about the kiosks themselves? So like, what kind of technology is it? How can folks access the meals, and how do they pay, that kind of thing?
Thinking back to my time at Visa, where you walk up to a refrigerator, you take what you want, and they're fresh meals. You can inspect, look at the meal. People, when they're spending $10, $12 on a product, they want to be able to pick it up, look at the bottom, make sure there's no wilted lettuce, and then buy it. And we knew people didn't want to buy fresh food from a vending machine where it's got a coil and there's a risk involved. It's great for snack like candy bars and chips and soda, where when you're buying a Coke, you know exactly what it's going to taste like. They all taste the same.
Mm-hmm.
And with a salad or a sandwich, they're all a little different, and people are very um, specific about what they're looking for. So
Yeah.
we knew that we couldn't just use a vending machine. So what we did was developed a smart kiosk. Today we sell smart kiosks, smart cabinets, smart freezers, but initially we were really focused on fresh food. So it was a smart kiosk where you walk up to the kiosk. It's a glass front refrigerator with a screen on the front, and that screen acts as a menu where customers can, it's a touch screen, so they can browse
Okay.
nutritional information, allergens, ingredients. They can filter if they're paleo or sugar free or nut free. They can filter the menu items on that screen before opening the door. But it is totally frictionless from a customer experience. I can walk up, tap my credit card, the door will unlock. I can pick up the salad that I saw on the screen or through the glass, pick up a kombucha, pick up a snack, put something back in a different place. It doesn't matter. It's completely open shelving. But when you close the door, you can just walk away. So that's why
Oh,
it's
wow.
frictionless from a customer experience. But we use RFID technology to power the kiosk. And that means when you walk up to the kiosk, the door is locked. You tap your credit card, the kiosk will inventory everything inside. So it knows the contents of the fridge before the door unlocks. It also pre-authorizes the credit card, and that takes about a half a second. You open the door, grab whatever you want, just like if you're shopping at a Whole Foods or something. When you close the door, it'll lock again and re-inventory. So if there's 100 items in there before they open the door and there's 97 items after they close the door, it knows which 3 items are missing and then charges that customer's card, whether it's a student card or a credit card.
Fascinating. So we've talked a little bit about like the fridge technology and how we've talked primarily about how it's been used for food, but I know that there are other deployments of the kiosk itself. So like, what are the main deployments that you see, and then what are kind of some unique ones that you've seen?
Well, we when we launched this business, we started as entrepreneurs. We didn't have experience in the food service space, and we developed this technology, sourced the food from a third party or from a number of third parties, and we just got started. And that was the hardest part, is kind of making that leap. So we always want to support entrepreneurs that want to get into the space where
Mm.
maybe they're producing, they've got an ice cream shop, and it's slow during the winter, or they've got one location and they want to serve their ice cream in other parts of town. It's really expensive to hire employees, to find
Yeah.
real estate, to build out the space. And with a Byte freezer kiosk, they can now kind of expand into unique locations, non-traditional retail locations like workplaces or gyms or apartment buildings, without the overhead of staffing and building out a space. So entrepreneurs are one channel for us, SMBs, and then food service operators are another really important channel for us. So traditionally, they've got to build out a cafe space on campus, and it's available during business hours for students. And when I was going to school, I'd sleep in, I'd miss, because I'm studying late, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd miss, breakfast. Or
Right.
you know, we are empowering these food service operators to make eating and accessing their food more convenient. So now, if you're studying late, it's 2 a.m. and you get hungry, instead of having to leave to go to the subway off campus or
Mm-hmm.
walk across campus to the one location that might be open. Now there's a Byte kiosk or a food service branded kiosk in the lobby of the residence hall, and you can go downstairs and grab what you need. So
Nice.
that's those are kind of our main channels. But we've got clients that are, hotel clients that are selling sundry items through them: hats, t-shirts, lip balm, that type of thing. We've got a lot of self-operating hospitals, especially children's hospitals, that have these on site, and they're selling like toothbrushes and toothpaste and phone
Oh,
chargers for
wow.
parents that need to stay on site. Um, and then what's really unique, we launched freezers about 9 months ago, and they've really taken off in terms of popularity. And some of the unique installations are ranchers that have these farm stores on their property, and they are hyper focused on their core business and managing the ranch and everything that goes along with that. Then when they have to think about this farm store and selling their product, that is not their expertise. And they've got to staff that store, and they've got limited staff, limited hours, and the community, they want to buy the products, but they're not available during the day. They want to grab something on the way home from work, and that's just not an option in this farm store. So what we're seeing is they're setting up Byte freezers outside the store, so it's available 24/7. And then these remote locations,
Nice.
people in the community can just stop by and grab, a couple pounds of ground beef or a ribeye or something and take it home for dinner that night. We also see there's a lot of juice shops, and it was especially a really popular business a couple of years ago during COVID, but it's very, it's an easier business to get into. And with a Byte kiosk, it's even easier. Instead of opening the store and finding the staff and managing the hours, now you can buy a Byte kiosk, and maybe I'm producing juice in a small, like, shared space. I live in an apartment building. There's 200 units in my apartment. You can buy a Byte kiosk, place it into the lobby of the apartment complex, stock it with the juice that you prepared that day, and now you're selling direct to your customers. It's a channel beyond just online for these entrepreneurs to sell. And I think that's one of the challenges to starting a business. It's like it's so capital intensive to start a business. And then if you're putting your products online, there's so much competition. You're competing with every other small business. Customer acquisition is very expensive. Retention is tough. Where with a physical space, when it's small footprint, like a Byte kiosk, you stock it every day and your customers are there. It's more convenient. So if it's in an office, you've got this line of sight marketing with your branding on it. You got a Byte kiosk in an office and somebody gets thirsty for a juice, they look up and there's your juice shop in their office. And employers appreciate it also, because now their employees have access to fresh food or juice or high quality products without them having to cover the cost of subsidizing it or building out the space and making it available.
That's interesting. So how does that work in terms of, like, so let's use the employer as an example, like a kind of a smallish office space who's deployed the kiosk for perhaps like lunch options for their employees. How does that work in terms of who stocks the kiosks, who maintains it, who, like, how does that partnership work between Byte and that, let's say, office?
So when we developed the technology and did the proof of concept in San Francisco, we were Byte Foods. So we did it all: hardware, software, location acquisition, and fulfillment. In 2019, we sold that network of 500 locations to focus purely on the technology. So now we work with entrepreneurs, and we are the manufacturing partner. So they order Byte kiosks, whether it's a juice company, they may order 2 or 3 Byte fridges. They put them in locations, workplaces, and they stock them with their product, and they generate all the revenue from the food sales or from the juice sales. They get access to an online dashboard where they can see the inventory of their kiosks in real time. They see transactions happening. They can change product prices. They get this bird's eye view, all real time, of everything happening in their kiosks. And because we built this technology based on what we saw from an operator perspective, we know the level of data that needs to be surfaced to make each one of these locations profitable for the operator. So I think that's what's unique that's one thing that's unique about us. But from my experience selling this into locations, there is so much demand for high quality food in workplaces, especially in the Bay Area. You've got companies like Google and Facebook and others that they've got this unlimited budget to give away food to their employees. And they're not dummies. They recognize the ROI, the return on investment for that, for those dollars. Their team is more productive, they're happier, they're healthier, they work later. And when you're a law firm or, you know, a manufacturing location or a nonprofit, you may not have a budget to do something like that. So before Byte, before Byte Foods, it was, we'll give away sodas because they're low cost, or candy bars, or we'll do vending because that's what's available. But that's, you know, candy bars, chips, sodas, like that's kind of a detractor for the employees. You're eating a Snickers bar for lunch, by 3 p.m., you know, you're ready to go home, or you're not as productive.
Yeah.
So when we were pitching this concept of Byte Foods it was turnkey for the employer, and it was a no-brainer. They saw high quality food in their office that, you know, employees can grab 24 hours a day. It's a no-brainer. It's good for the employer because their team's more productive. They don't have to leave the office during lunch. They can eat at their desk if they need to, or they can grab a sandwich or a wrap and go downstairs and go sit in the park if they want to, instead of getting in their car, going through the McDonald's drive-through, not sure how long the line is going to be, and the anxiety that comes with that. So from an employee perspective, you know, of course, high quality food at your fingertips is a big win. And what we saw is, before Byte, it was either free food or no food. And today, a lot of the employers recognize the value of it, so they're willing to subsidize the cost of food by some percentage in our clients' kiosks. So if my employer is subsidizing the salad at 50% off, and instead of a $12 salad, now it's a $6 salad, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to get that, as opposed to leaving the office and, you know, coming back late or missing a meeting because I'm gone. So now there's a way for employers to subsidize, to have fresh food available on site, and subsidize it by as much or as little as they'd like.
That's incredible to consider the fact that, you know, it cuts down not only on that kind of commute time during a lunch, if you have kind of a restricted lunch time that you have, but it also incentivizes employees to perhaps stay later by just offering those kind of healthful options right there where they're at. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about where you see Byte kiosks popping up next, or what kind of things are in the future for Byte.
I mean, we're really excited about the future. I mean, just looking at vendingtimes.com, and it's all about automation and what's next. And I think the most exciting thing is from the customer experience perspective, where if I'm a student, I no longer have to kind of build my schedule around when lunch is available or when breakfast is available. It's just omnipresent. So it's always, you know, within reach. Maybe there's 20 Byte kiosks around campus instead of one cafe that I've got to walk across campus to. So I think it's really exciting from the customer perspective. One anecdote is we had 40 kiosks here in Fremont, 40 kiosks live at Tesla's main manufacturing facility. Prior to Byte, it was one cafe, and the facility is, I don't know how big it is, but it is ginormous, probably a mile long.
Sounds huge. Yeah.
And this is 5 years ago, granted, but the employees, you know, they had 30-minute lunch break. So they're, you know, in the paint shop, and it's their lunch break. They got to really hustle to get to the cafeteria, eat as quickly as they can, and then get back to the paint shop for their shift to start again. Yeah. And with Byte, the reason they launched Byte is now they've got a Byte kiosk in the paint shop. So that person's lunch break is not hustling across campus. It's enjoying the meal that they bought from the fridge. And you can do that anywhere. So as an employee, it just improves my quality of life. I do a better job, and I can kind of enjoy my 30-minute lunch break rather than the anxiety that comes with trying to make it back in time. So what I'm most excited about is continuing to grow our footprint. I mean, we've got thousands of kiosks live with more than 1,000 clients. And continuing to grow that and maybe even changing the way people eat at work or when they're away from home. When we originally launched that food service company that I mentioned, the initial iteration of Byte Foods, we called it 180 Eats. And the idea is at some point, we as a nation have to change the way we're eating. And 180 comes from at some point we're gonna reach a cliff,
Yeah.
and we need to stop, turn 180 degrees, and move towards fresh food and higher quality ingredients. And that's what we are empowering these entrepreneurs and food service operators to sell is food that they're already producing, the delicious food that they're already producing in their cafe. Now they can make it available anywhere on campus or anywhere 24/7 in a
Mm-hmm.
hospital. The second and third shift staff at a hospital, they've got to bring their food from home. They don't have the same amenities that the daytime shifts do
That's true. Yeah.
before Byte, and now they do. So um, I really am excited about kind of having a very, very small part in changing the way people access food, away from home.
It's also really important work. I think that that's something that we're seeing kind of as a trend shifting, especially with like self-service as technology that's becoming more available. We have the ability to access more healthy options.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of like cliff that you were mentioning, like I think we are kind of getting there in terms of the public, at least from what I've seen. On vending times and the stories that I'm covering, people do have a desire for the fresh, locally sourced options. And so this really does kind of like provide that to them in a really cool space.
Yes,
So,
I
yeah.
agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think the awareness is there today that wasn't there
Hmm.
10 or 15 years ago. And now we need to catch up with the access to it. I can be aware of it, like in these food swamps is a term that I've heard, where you're stuck with just access to a convenience store that focuses on
Hmm.
lotto. Whereas now with this technology, this small footprint platform, now you can have access to it. So you're aware of it, you need to do it. Now you can actually do it. So yeah, I think it's a really exciting time for the customer, but also for people launching a business.
Oh, yeah.
Pre-internet, it was really challenging to launch a business. You got to build a store and come up with a unique idea. The internet kind of changed that, where anybody can launch a business online. But if you want to build that kind of physical footprint, I think Byte is a channel to do that, or an outlet where if you make amazing cookies and you want to sell those, it's difficult to do that online, especially fresh. Now you
Hmm.
can do it. You want to start, you've got a unique ice cream flavor, or you've got a ranch, or you've got a jewelry idea. We
Yeah.
can do that through our cabinets. Or you just want an additional revenue stream. You can do that through our freezers and our fridges. If you live in an apartment, you know, get one of our freezers and put it up by the pool and stock it with frozen food or ice cream, and people during the summer can grab something and you're generating revenue. So I think we're empowering a lot of entrepreneurs, and working with food service operators, we're allowing them to extend the reach of their products anywhere on campus or in a hospital.
Absolutely. And then on the flip side of that, you're also empowering the consumer who might not work traditional hours to have the same access to those kinds of goods um, as someone else might in terms of like when the store is open. But if the kiosk is there, they're able to access that just as they
Mm-hmm.
would be if the store were open. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think
that's right.
I'm really excited to see future deployments of Byte. I'm really excited to see where you all are going, to see more stories like the ranchers, how they are kind of utilizing this technology. And I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us about this today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So that'll conclude today's episode of the Automation and Self Service podcast. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe below. We're good.